Hello, everybody. How's it going? It's Craig. I'm back another Friday. Thanks for stopping by my channel and saying hello. Oh, hell. It's been a hell of a week, right? I mean, it was one of those short weeks. We had that holiday, but, it still felt like a regular long week. So I'm glad it's finally over. Friday night, time to put out some videos and chat with you guys and listen to some music later. Gonna start with some beer, drinking some Hefeweizen here. I'm trying the light to see how that works because I could see I had this giant shadow on the side of my head. So I turned on the light. Hopefully I don't get that ring in my fucking glasses. Uh-oh. I said the F word within the first 8 minutes on YouTube. I might get banned. Well, for me, it's been a pretty good week. Setting up the new turntable I got last week. You know, I mean, I gotta say, it's definitely sounds better than my old AT LP60. I know it's just an Audio Technica LP120, and some of you guys out there might be audiophiles and have high end equipment, but I'm so happy. It's probably the best turntable I've had in a while, or maybe ever, honestly. I mean, the one I had when I was a teenager was really good. I wish I still had that sucker. Um, Back in the day, I bought one of those rack systems when I was like 15 years old. I spent $600 on a rack system in 1984 or 1985. So think about how much money that would be nowadays. Of course, I don't have that kind of money now, so I'm glad I was able to trade those records in and upgrade a little bit. It sounds so much better. I've really been enjoying it, so had to do some adjusting with the equalizer and stuff because it did change the sound a little bit. But overall, I mean, it is just hand and fist above the rest. So, but that's enough about that. Hopefully, you guys are all doing well. Today, I want to talk about AC/DC. So, AC/DC, been around since like 1975. They have 23 albums if you count their live albums and their studio albums, and multiple EPs and compilations and so on. I own 12, counting one compilation album. I'm a fan of all their earlier stuff, and I'll kind of go through some of that. So, what I want to do today is I'm going to rank my countdown from number 12 to number 1 of my favorite AC/DC albums. And this is all subjective, of course. They have a lot of stuff, some songs are put on one record and put on another one. There's the Australian versions, and they kind of get moved around, they're different when it comes to that than a whole lot of other bands. You'll see some songs on an earlier record that are also on another record, depending on what version it is, whether it was from Australia or whatever. I have an Australian version of an album, and I have the American version of that album. They have different track listings, that type of stuff. Some songs are on one and not on another. So anyway, you kind of get the point. But I really do enjoy this band. I have since I was a teenager, one of the first bands when I first started getting into heavier music. The first band, of course, was Kiss for me, and that brought me to like Black Sabbath and Iron Maiden and AC/DC, and those four bands were like, that was pretty much it in the very beginning until, I started getting into other stuff. So AC/DC has been one of those bands that's been around for me since the beginning. But I stopped at a certain time, and I'll explain why here in just a second. So number 12 for me, Fly on the Wall from AC/DC. This is number 12 for me out of the 12 that I have. And this is where I stop with AC/DC. I don't own anything after this. It's got some good tunes on it. It's a good record. Fly on the Wall, Sink the Pink, Hell or High Water. Those are all really good songs, but overall, this album isn't that strong in my opinion. So this is kind of where I stopped paying attention to AC/DC. And let's see, what year is this? I did not prepare years-wise and all that stuff. Looks like it says 1985. Yeah, 1985. This is not an 85 press, obviously, but so that's kind of where I stopped buying AC/DC and listening to AC/DC albums, is this one right here. All right, next up, number 11, I'm going to go with 74 Jailbreak. This is an EP or a compilation. It's listed on Discogs as a compilation album, not an EP. And for us in America at the time, this is basically a compilation album. It's got Soul Stripper, Baby Please Don't Go, Show Business, You Ain't Got a Hold on Me, and Jailbreak. Not in that order. And this has got different dates all the way back to 75. For us in America, the song Jailbreak was essentially new. It's not on any other records. It's on some Australian stuff, but it was not on any American releases. So unless you had an import with it on there, and I couldn't even tell you where Jailbreak came from. But the other 4 songs were on other albums. That's why I ranked this one kind of low, although I do love this record. But it's only got 5 songs, and 4 of them are all on other records, for me anyway. All right, so now I'm at 10. For those about to rock, I've had this. This is the first AC/DC album I ever owned. This is the same copy I've had probably since I was 13 or 14 years old. I think this is a pretty good album, but you know, I just know there's just something about it. It doesn't really rank up there very high for me. And as you'll notice as we go on, I'm more of a Bon Scott than a Brian Johnson fan anyway. So this one, I mean, I guess technically top 10, you know. So for those about to rock. All right, next up, number 9. If You Want Blood, you got it. Well, it just says If You Want Blood on here, but we know how it goes. This is a live record. It's got a whole lot of cool songs on it. Let There Be Rock and High Voltage and Rock and Roll Damnation, a whole lot of Rosie. Very good stuff. It's a great record, great track listing, but not necessarily a great live album, I guess you'd say, you know, compared to some of the other classic live albums. I don't know if I would put this up there, but so that's where I got this. This is in number 9, If You Want Blood. And I just listened to that one like 3 days ago. That's kind of what inspired this idea for today. All right, number 8, my Australian version of High Voltage, which I've had this. This was my birthday present from my friend when I was 16 years old. I've had this ever since. It's got Baby Please Don't Go, She Got Balls, Little Lover, Stick Around, Soul Stripper, You Ain't Got a Hold on Me, Love Song, Show Business, all great records. This is great. But I think I prefer the American one more than the Australian version of this. But I am glad I have this, an OG press of High Voltage. So from, you know, Australian High Voltage, 1981 on this is what this says. So I'm not sure if it's an OG press. Not sure exactly on this would have came out before that. So this is actually a repress. And it is Albert Productions, and it's from New South Wales. It's got the New South Wales address on here. I want to say this was a copy from New Zealand from 1981, if I remember correctly. Next up, Power Age. Where am I at now? 12, 11, 10, 9, 8. Number 7, Power Age. Rock and Roll Damnation, Down Payment Blues. See what I'm talking about? Rock and Roll Damnation's on High Voltage. So this was put out later. And in 1978. So they come to America. They release this as an American version of Power Age. They take songs that have already been released in Australia and the UK and so on. So, but Power Age is a great record. Down Payment Blues, Sin City. Basically, Rock and Roll Damnation, Down Payment Blues, Give Me a Bullet, and Riff Raff. That's side 1. Then side 2 starts with Sin City, and then the rest of it is kind of filler. So that's why I didn't rank this one quite as high. And, you know, I keep losing track of 10, 9, 8, 7. Number 6, High Voltage. the American version of High Voltage. I think this has a better track listing than the Australian High Voltage. And this one comes out, according to this, in 1976, which would have been a year later. This is the American press. It's got A Long Way to the Top, Rock and Roll Singer, The Jack, Livewire, TNT, Can I Sit Next to You Girl, Little Lover, She's Got Balls, and High Voltage. So I like this one just a little bit better than the Australian version. Japanese press, obviously. Number 5, Let There Be Rock. This one, Go Down, Doggy Dog, Let There Be Rock, Bad Boy Boogie, Problem Child, Overdose, Hell Ain't a Pass, Bad Place to Be, and Whole Lotta Rosie. Kick-ass track listing, great record. This is awesome. This one, as you can see, this one's from 1977. So as you can see, as you've seen this ranking, that I am more into the Bon Scott era than the Brian Johnson. So, number 4, Back in Black. This album's been talked about on the VC a million times. One of the greatest selling hard rock albums of all time, but not necessarily my favorite. Probably because, it was my favorite for a long time. This record's had a ton of spins, and I had this like cassette back in the day and played it to death. Maybe that's why I don't rank it as high as I would have 15, 20 years ago. I got this ranked as number 4 out of the 12 that I own. So, Back in Black, we all know this. We all know the track listing. Every song on here was a hit, but if I have to hear, You Shook Me All Night Long on the radio one more time, that might be enough. So, number 3, Highway to Hell, last album with Bon Scott. They were firing all cylinders when this record came out. This one's got Highway to Hell, Girls Got Rhythm, Walk Over You, Touch Too Much, Beating Around the Bush, Shot Down in Flames, Get Hot, If You Want Blood, You've Got It, Love Hungry Man, and Night Prowler. Once again, there's another song that's on another record. If You Want Blood's on here. Man, but this is a freaking great record, man. They were firing all cylinders. They were blowing up. They were getting worldwide attention. Then Bon dies. Of course, they followed up with the one I just showed, which blows them up even bigger. They're probably bigger with Brian Johnson than they ever were with Bon Scott. But this is a kick-ass record, man. I love this record through and through. This is another one of those. I can picture myself hanging out in the parking lot in high school. Big surprise, I hung out in the parking lot. And just listening to AC/DC and just, being blown away by how good they were. This record was so good. Number 2, AC/DC, obviously, because that's who we're talking about. Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap. This one's got Dirty Deeds, Love at First Feel, Big Balls, which I love. The 5-year-old in me just thinks Big Balls is great. It's got Rocker, Problem Child, which Problem Child, what a kick-ass song that is. There's going to be some rockin'. Ain't No Fun Waiting Around to Be a Millionaire, Ride On. Come on, man. That just, Bon's voice on that is unbelievable. Squealer, just a fucking great track list, just a great record. This one is number 2 on my list, and my favorite Bon Scott era. And for those of you who are following along, you will already know, if you look as to what this is, my number 1 favorite out of the 12 records I own by AC/DC is Flick of the Switch. This album is underrated. Nobody talks about this record. It doesn't get talked about enough. This album is freaking excellent. This is after, they do Back in Black, they do For Those About to Rock, then they do this. And this is just so hard and heavy and it still sounds like AC/DC, but there's something about it that's different. And it's got, Rising Power, Flick of the Switch, Houses on Fire, Nervous Shakedown, Landslide, Guns for Hire, Deep in the Hole, Bedlam for Belgium, and Badlands. Just killer stuff all the way through. I've always loved this record. This has always been my favorite Brian Johnson era record. And as I was going through the day, honestly, it could be a tie between this and Dirty Deeds, but this just ekes it out just a little bit more. It's just so raw sounding and heavy, and how it didn't get the recognition it deserves, after Back in Black and For Those About to Rock, which sold a bunch of copies also. This album didn't do quite as well, and I don't understand it. It didn't have that many hits on here, that people, they got radio play or anything else, but this is just excellent. I love this record, so there we go. So that's what I did. Number 1, Flick of the Switch. Number 2, Dirty Deeds. Number 3, Highway to Hell. Number 4, Back in Black. Number 5, Let There Be Rock. Number 6, High Voltage American version. Number 7, Power Age. Number 8, High Voltage Australia. Number 9, If You Want Blood. Number 10, For Those About to Rock. Number 11, 74 Jailbreak, and number 12, Fly on the Wall. So you guys let me know what you think, and I know there's a lot of AC/DC fans out there who probably own everything they have. I know a lot of you guys are completists. I am not a completist. I am a completist with certain bands, obviously. I'm a completist when it comes to Kiss. I'm a completist when it comes to Megadeth. At least I'm trying. There's still 2 more left. I have to buy... There's 2 left that I don't have. One's never been released on vinyl, so I'm going to have to find a boot. And the other one right now is running $60 or $70, so one day, So, I like to complete eras that I like or whatever, but I don't have to buy everything from a band. And I'm that way with AC/DC. So, but yeah, so there we go. Out of the 12 I have, that's my ranking. Let me know what you guys think. What your favorites are, or whether you prefer Bon or Brian. I mean, honestly, I do prefer the Bon Scott era over the Brian Johnson era. You look at the Brian Johnson era, what do I have? I have Back in Black, For Those About to Rock, Flick of the Switch, and Fly on the Wall, and that's it. And everything else I have, the other 8 I have, are all Brian Johnson era stuff. So that'll tell you kind of where I fall in that thing, So... the only other AC/DC I can see myself buying right now is the Who Made Who, which is a compilation record with the new song and stuff, but it's basically a greatest hits album that was made for the movie. Besides that, I don't see buying any of the stuff after that, I mean, songs like Thunderstruck don't really stick to me at all, but maybe I'm missing out. You guys let me know if I am missing out. On, their latest stuff, Power Up or Black Ice or any of that stuff. Let me know if I'm missing out. So, anyway, I just thought I'd get on, say hi, talk about some AC/DC. I really appreciate you all watching. I really do. I appreciate all the comments on all my videos and all you guys who, watch me all the time and, comment and say hello. You guys are awesome. I really appreciate it. I'm just a guy talking about records, like all of us out here, and I never thought I'd have a couple hundred subs and people who I consider friends in the vinyl community, who comment and chat and everything else. I just really appreciate this community all the way around. So here's to you guys. Cheers, and you guys all have a great weekend, man, and I'll talk to you all later.